The NFL offseason is underway, and teams are trying to get under the cap and cutting good players. How does that impact the 2024 NFL Draft? The Denver Broncos cut Russell Wilson. Does that mean J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix could be in play? We're going to talk about all of this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And guys, listen, I am here to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the NFL and how it pertains and how it impacts the 2024 NFL Draft. The Denver Broncos trimming some fat, getting some guys off their roster, getting rid of and releasing quarterback Russell Wilson. But not only just that, Justin Simmons, right? The Buffalo Bills getting rid of cornerback Tre'Davious White. Okay, how does these moves, all the stuff that's going on, and more moves have happened, how are these NFL moves and releasings and transactions, how is it going to impact the 2024 NFL Draft? We're going to talk about it, guys. But before we get into that, we got to talk about Game Time. I got to tell you guys about Game Time because today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr., right? When you think about what has happened, like I talked about, NFL transactions, Russell Wilson being released from the Denver Broncos, right? That's a big move. And it's a move we expected, right, family? We expected this move to take place. But the point is, what does that do for the 2024 NFL Draft? Currently, right now, the Denver Broncos hold the 12th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. So you wonder, okay, can they stand pat? Can they stay put at 12 and just hope for the best? Well, no, because the only quarterback you got on your team right now is Jarrett Stidham. So you can't walk into the 2024 NFL season with Jarrett Stidham as your starting quarterback unless you're trying to tank and wait for Shedeur Sanders. But I don't believe Sean Payton is going to have the same type of leash that he's had, or expectations are going to be a little different, right? You came in, they traded the first round pick for you, and you haven't gotten it done with a qualified and capable quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and Russell Wilson, right? Now they're also talking about potentially getting rid of Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, so that could open that up and open up room for receivers and potentially day 2, day 3 fits for them. But I think J.J. McCarthy and, the arm talent, the mobility, we've talked about his game and where there's so much more room for him to grow. I think that if they were to move up, it's moving up for J.J. McCarthy. That is the fact. That's what I truly believe and everything. But if they were to stand pat, I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be there at 12, though, guys. I don't, right? And J.J. McCarthy, you look at J.J. McCarthy, and you look at Michael Penix, you give me throw in Bo Nix. Who fits this offense? And I think all three guys to an extent. I think Bo is probably the worst fit out of the three. But I do believe that Michael Penix Jr. and J.J. McCarthy would fit what the Broncos want to do. But again, you got to focus on and figure out how aggressive do you want to be if you're Denver, because Atlanta needs a quarterback. You have, of course, the Vikings, and there's a lot of talk. I heard it in Mobile that if they were going to get a quarterback and they wanted a young one, they would have to move up, and they were willing to be aggressive and go get their guy. And that's a big thing, right? That's a big thing all around is, what are you going to do if you're a team like Denver? You know what I mean? A team like the Las Vegas Raiders with these quarterbacks, and the word is New England's not trying to is not trying to trade out of that spot. So I'm expecting 3 quarterbacks off the board in the top 3 picks, guys. So if that is the case, I'm just saying, if that is the case, what are we going to do here if you're the Atlanta Falcons at 8? We're going to sign Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson? I think it's time that you go and try and get a quarterback, man. You're at the 8th spot. The Vikings are at pick 11. The The Broncos are at pick 12. I think the Raiders are like pick 14, 13, 14, in that 13 to 15 range. If I remember correctly, they're in that range. There's multiple teams that need quarterbacks, right? So I do think that the releasing of Russell Wilson, the impact of it is that the Denver Broncos are going to go round one with quarterback, whether that's J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix Jr. But again, the order on how these guys come flying off the board is going to be so important. It's so much fun to watch, right? It's to find out what are you going to do, because at the end of the day, there's so much need at the position. I think Michael Penix Jr. and his fit into that offense, right? We saw him go into the combine and the ball placement, the accuracy, like the confidence. Like he just looked game ready in Indianapolis on last Saturday afternoon, man. Being in there and watching him throw and just the comfort, the everything. And it's just like, man, like, okay, this is the guy I wanted to see in Mobile, but it was a different feel because I know that talking to players there, the coaching staffs were mixed of different teams, and there was a lot of things that kind of disrupted the process. But I do believe that Penix and McCarthy would be ideal fits for a team like the Denver Broncos, or both of them. I think would be great fits for a team like the Minnesota Vikings, with Kevin O'Connell running that kind of McVay, Shanahan style offense. You know what I mean? They can get under center, run the ball, boot action, play action, but also having the weapons like a Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, when he's healthy, TJ Hawkinson, but I think the Raiders are going to be the team to really watch, because I think if any team could be in that range, right, that 12, that I would say 8 to 15, 8 to 16 range teams, that are those teams that need quarterbacks, I would not be shocked if the Las Vegas Raiders say, you know what, man, we have our head coach, we have our GM, we have the staff and the leadership brass that we need. Let's go get a quarterback. No disrespect to AOC, Aiden O'Connell. He performed admirably, but he's just not a needle mover, right? You know what I mean? Shout out to my wrestling fans out there, talking about Roman Reigns being a needle mover. But you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not a needle mover for me. He's not a guy that's going to move the needle. He's not a truck. He's not a hitch to me. I think he's a trailer. And I think, yes, you have some good pieces. You have Adams. You have a good run game. You can continue to improve the O-line. You can do a lot of different things, right? Get Michael Mayer the football this year. But I do think that, they should be looking to be aggressive. And when Michael Penix is getting the green light, his medicals coming back good with a positive review, I think that puts him back in that first round, maybe back in the first. But I could see teams saying, you know what, man, if the medicals came out clear, I'm all in, right? I'm all in with this, and I would rather go ahead and take a Michael Penix now than trying to hope and wait that he's there in a second. I think that's where this QB situation could get a little dicey, because teams are going to try and figure out they're jostling for position, right? You think about basketball, that somebody put the shot up and everybody's under the rim, battling, boxing out, trying to get position, right? Trying to get that front hip in front of the opposition, trying to get the elbow into the rib cage so they can push off and go up for the rebound. Everybody's fighting for position for some of these quarterbacks. And I just feel like we could see 5 quarterbacks off the board in the top 25 because of the fact that Penix medicals came back and then he looked incredible and much improved compared to the Senior Bowl, being able to just play loose, play free, and dot every I, cross every T in Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine. So again, Russell Wilson being released. Right, the talks of Geno Smith, like, hey, we have him for this year, right? They're available, right? So there's multiple teams that need quarterbacks. So what is the NFL transactions doing to the quarterback situation? I think it could be raising some stocks heading into the free agency, and we'll see how everything plays out. But come April, don't be surprised if we get 5, not just 4. We could get 5 quarterbacks off the board inside the top 20. I'm just saying that's how I'm feeling right now, looking at the landscape of things. But guys, let's talk about some safeties, all right? Justin Simmons being released from the Denver Broncos. What do for Tyler Nubin and Kam Kinchens? What does that do for these guys? I think it opens up a market. I think it kind of helps them in a way. It might also hurt them in a way. We're going to talk about that coming up next. Passion, drive, patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Because guys, because with eBay Motors, you're burning more rubber than you are cash, right? You're burning more rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. You shouldn't have to worry when it comes down to buying tickets to your next big event. But if you wait to the last minute, you will, because you're trying to compete with other buyers, find the best deals, and avoid dealing with scammers and scalpers. Let me introduce you to Game Time. They are the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. What do they offer, DP? Tell us the benefits. Well, I got you guys. I got you, family. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. The tickets are easy to find and buy. This is the fit. This is my best part. This is the best part and my favorite part. They show the views from all the seats in the venue. So before you purchase your ticket, you know what vantage point you will have. All right, guys, listen. Chris Brown, R&B star Chris Brown, is going on tour. And if you are in the Detroit, Michigan area at Little Caesars Arena on June 5th, you can get tickets as cheap as $107 on the Game Time app right now. So all you need to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Safeties. Justin Simmons, Pro Bowl, All-Pro player for the Denver Broncos, was released today. And how does that makes a big impact? Because I think it was last year. Let's rewind to the 2023 NFL draft class, right? The free agent running back class was viewed to be, man, this is not going to be good for you guys, with Zach Charbonnet, with of course, Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, and Tank Bigsby, and all these talented running backs. That 2023 class was absolutely talented, right? And I think that's a big part. Kendre Miller and all that type of stuff. So you fast forward now, you look at how like a potential free agent acquisition for a team that has cap space, that says, okay, I can get Justin Simmons, a proven baller, a guy who could do multiple things and wear multiple hats. How does that impact a Tyler Nubin? How does that impact a guy like Kam Kinchens, who's kind of trying to rebuild his draft stock after kind of a lackluster performance so far with this draft process, right? He wasn't great in Mobile. He ran 4.65 at the combine, and this is a good safety group too, with Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, 6'2", 210, Javon Bullard out of Georgia, 5'11", 195. Kind of play you can think about playing that Brian Branch, that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson role, where you're kind of a hybrid nickel safety, right? That can cover, drop off, cover man-to-man in the nickel, drop off deep into too high and split zones, blitz, run defend, things of that nature. But also Jaden Hicks at 6'3", 212, a guy that was supposed to be down in Mobile, but I think it was an injury or something like that kept him out. But him, a guy that's physical, a box player, Kam Kinchens, coming at 5'11", 6 foot, 205, but running that 4.6, that 4.65 doesn't help, right? Kalen Bullock from USC, Sione Vaki from Utah, Tyke Smith, Cole Bishop, Bo Braid. This is a good group. Malik Mustafa, a physical hard hitter. Jalen Simpson, that's my guy. That's a guy I really like. It's 6'1", 178, 180. You know what I'm saying? Athletic. He's got some physicality to him, but he's got that corner coverage ability and ball skills that can translate to defenses and take the ball away and be a multi-faceted coverage defender. When you really factor in those names and that talent, and it's like, man, I can get this guy some cheap deals, but it's still the unknown. And with a Justin Simmons sitting there, I think the impact it's going to have is that we could see it push safety down the board just a little bit, right? Where, I expect a safety to come off the board at earliest, like best case scenario, late first round. More than likely second round, right? It's early. I think the first will come off the board in the second, maybe mid to late second. So, somewhere in there. So you think about a team sitting there. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, right? You're like, well, we actually could use safety. Do we go and get him, right? Like, do we go and make that move, make that decision? That's tough. That's a tough ask. That's a tough situation just in general, right? So or do you take a Tyler Nubin in the second round? Do you take a Kalen Bullock in the second, third round, right? Guy who ran 4.48, but he's got a thin, wiry frame. So it's like, I don't know how I feel about this. Where Tyler Nubin, it looks like the guy and it plays like the guy that most defenses would want, right? Tackle, run support. He can play some big nickel and big dime situations. He has the size and the athleticism and coverage ability to be able to stick with tight ends as well. But his instincts and range and from the back end, working downhill, being a robber and playing robber coverage and taking the ball away and everything else. Yeah, man, I think that is a ideal situation, of course. But again, it just depends. I think, with Justin Simmons being hitting the market, and not just Justin Simmons hitting the market, right? Like you got Jordan Poyer who hit the market from the Buffalo Bills. Like that's a Jamal Adams from the Seattle Seahawks, right? Because he's battled a lot of injuries. Quandre Diggs, the safety market. This is a good safety group. And as well as good of a group it is for the NFL draft, I absolutely think it's going to have some type of residual effect on these prospects, right? You know what I mean? Because Tyler Nubin's my safety one right now. He didn't run at the combine, but guess what? I'm pretty sure that was an agent call. And with James Williams, who's a safety linebacker hybrid from Miami, running a 4.65, right? Like 6'4", 6'5", 230, and then you have Kam Kinchens, who's 5'11", 6 foot, 205, and he runs the exact same time. That's not great. Doesn't look good. And we saw you in Mobile, that doesn't help either. So I think his stock is dropping right now. So again, that's going to be the question. Is like, all right, we know safeties aren't going to just break the bank, but there's guys in that free agent pool that I just named that can get the job done, and you probably can get them on a 1-year veteran deal. Unlike a Justin Simmons, you might be able to get him for 3 years, 2 to 3 years, right, with an option and stuff like that to really help your team and spread some of that money around from his contract, spread it throughout, give him a fully guaranteed early year. You know what I mean? That first year's like heavily guaranteed, and then you have more flexibility down the back stretch of that contract if it's a multi-year deal, like over 2 years. But yeah, I absolutely think that this is a situation where the safety class could be impacted based on the safety NFL free agent class. I think there's a strong shot of that, and they could push those guys down the board. But listen, you want to talk about pushing down, pushing up? There's some teams that need corners, and we just saw Tre'Davious White from the Buffalo Bills be released. The Eagles, if I remember correctly, I believe the Eagles also released like Avonte Maddox. Yes, they released Avonte Maddox, cornerback for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So there's some situations brewing here. How does that impact this corner group, which is actually much better than people originally thought? We're going to talk about this coming up next. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info, claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers is in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker dealer. Thank you guys for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And guys, like I said, Tre'Davious White has been released by the Buffalo Bills, and Avonte Maddox has been released by the Philadelphia Eagles. And these are teams that have a need at the position. You think about cornerbacks like TJ Tampa, a guy I'm high on. You know what I mean? I got a message from a coach about him. He's like, man, you need to check out one of my guys. I said, who is that? He said, TJ Tampa. I said, all right, coach, I got you. And I watched the tape, and I saw a 6'2", 200-pound young man that could run, could fly, right? Had good speed, but also had the ball skills, the instincts, how to bait quarterbacks into throws that you don't want quarterbacks throwing. I was impressed by him, man. He showcased some good man-to-man coverage skills as well. Is he more of a cover 3 type of fit for a team? More than likely, right? That's kind of how you think about it. He's probably more than likely a cover 3 fit. Cover 4, team that play more kind of off coverage and zone. But I do think that he brings some things to the table that you just can't teach, man. You can't be over 6 foot, 200 pounds and say, listen, this is where we are with this, right? So I look at this young man's game and I say to myself, all right, what does he offer? And for teams that need corner, I'm not saying that he's going to be a first round pick to either of these spots, but teams that prioritize physicality in terms of tackling, coverage versatility, ball skills, speed, athleticism, height, weight, arm length, size, all those good things. Teams that value that are going to be happy with this young man, right? But you also mean this corner group is good. It's a good corner group, guys. Of course, we talk about Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, right? We talk about those guys all the time. But Ennis Rakestraw from Missouri and what he can bring to the table. Mike Sainristil, you know what I mean? And from Michigan, national champion. What does he bring to the table? Like, these are some good cornerbacks, guys that can play inside, that can play out. This is a class that you can find exactly what you need at the cornerback position, in my honest opinion. And it's one of the more slept on position groups in terms of overall talent and depth. Me and Keith kind of disagree. Keith's like, I don't think there's a guy that I would take inside the top 20. I disagree with that. Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, those guys, Quinyon Mitchell, those guys are definitely top 20 picks for me, because you when you have the blend of movement skills, size, coverage ability, and everything, athleticism and speed that they bring to the table, you just can't teach that, guys. And I feel like I could teach you how to kick step. I could teach you how to punch and throw with the right hand and not lock your hip. I could teach you how to read the receivers' core and everything, and know that their core isn't going anywhere. I could teach you how to do those things, but the movement ability, the size, the speed, all the other things, the physical God-given ability, I can't teach you as a coach, right? So that's why we view this class a little differently, because Keith is like, man, there's no Sauce, there's no Sauce Gardner, there's no Derek Stingley Jr. here, there's no Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon. And I may agree, I agree to an extent in terms of, especially some of those guys like, Stingley was super polished coming out, right? Man-to-man guy. Christian Gonzalez was, man, listen, him and Stingley are the two best man-to-man corners that I've seen in terms of prospects in like the last decade. Truthfully, that's no hyperbole. That's how I feel about those guys' ability to mirror and match the fluidity of their hips and their feet, be able to turn and run with guys, the athleticism, right, the explosiveness to actually run and stay in phase and run with guys in a foot race, all of that stuff. So you may not have that, but I think there's upside with a lot of these guys. Okay, and I think when you just look at it, someone's going to get a great player or a good player. When you think about Terrion Arnold and these guys, if you let them fall outside of the top 15 into the top 25, between picks 20 and 25, like you're pushing down more good players on the board. And y'all know my slogan: draft good players, man. I'm not playing around with this. Draft good players. Forget all that. But yeah, I think with the, like I said, I'm not saying that the Bills are going to go corner round 1, but if one of these guys were to fall, how hard will it be for the Buffalo Bills to say, I'm not taking a corner here, right? You have Kyer Elam, who's you kind of been up and down with his decision to play. right? You have Rasul Douglas, who's been an outstanding outstanding performer since the trade from Green Bay. But at the same time, I think I just look at it from the aspect of I'd rather go ahead and invest in the cornerback position. And like I said, you look at the Eagles, that's a position of need for them. Yes, you got Keely Ringo, who performed pretty well. Eli Ricks, I don't know if he fits that system, and especially when they go to man-to-man, because he's not a great athlete. Foot speed was never his thing. So again, that's the problems you run into. And I just don't know personally how comfortable I would be just walking. And James Bradbury has to, more than likely is a cut candidate, you know what I mean? Maybe a restructure, keep him as a veteran voice in the room. You have Darius Slay, but even Darius Slay getting older, he's battling some injuries. You need to improve the talent of youth in this room if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and a couple other teams, man. And I think that if that's the case, we can get some stuff done. So I have no problem with it whatsoever. I just look at the simple fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, cornerback, this releasing some of these guys, I think it just helps the cornerback group and cornerback class in general. And I think that's the trickle down effect, right? The trickle down effect is I do believe the teams are going to be able, like Keon Crossing from the Miami Dolphins. You think about other Miami Dolphin corner who was released, Xavier Howard, he was cut, right? Cap casualty. Somebody in you think about how that can impact the draft. He may end up going to a place like the Houston Texans that is a prime candidate spot for day 2 for a corner to come off the board day 2 to pair him with Derek Stingley. But if he get him, maybe you wait to day 3 and get a developmental guy, right? That you can sit behind those two and say, listen, we're good, right? And you feel good about that. But when you got a Max Melton, Mike Sanders still, there's so many corners. This is a good group, guys. Kamari Lassiter, I give a back end day 2, early day 3, grade 2. You think about from Georgia, think about Oregon corner Kyrie Jackson, 6'3", 200 pounds. Andrew Phillips from Kentucky, 6 foot, 187, 190. You know what I'm saying? I love what he's been able to do, what he did on tape at Kentucky. Some people view him as a nickel. It doesn't really matter to me. At the end of the day, this is a good group. The duo from Florida State, Renardo Green and Jerry and Jones, both 6 foot, 185, 90-pound guys who ran well, jumped high, can move and be sticky in coverage. This is a good group of corners, and that's what I want. That's my main takeaway right now, guys, is that no matter what happens in free agency, this is a good group of corners, and NFL teams that need cornerback help better not walk out of the 2024 NFL draft without them. That's the only thing I'm going to tell you. Be on the lookout for a little bit of a run for corners at some point during the draft. I think day 2 we could see a run. But guys, listen, that is our show, man. We talked about the corners. We talked about the safeties. We talked about the quarterbacks and how these NFL free agent transactions early on right now before free agency really kicks off, these releasings, how it's impacted the QBs, the safeties, and the corners, and how these prospects in these prospect groups, how they will fare with the free agents class at their position. So, guys, listen, go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, man. We appreciate y'all so much. All right. You know the slogan. Talk to us, because we do talk back. On tomorrow's show, we are going to get into either Caleb Williams, Brock Bowers. We haven't figured it out yet, but we're going to get into that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.